Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're giving you a shortcut, really, to understanding how several critical global systems are being tested.
Right, all at the same time. We're talking about everything from political stability on the ground.
All the way up to the scientific infrastructure that's monitoring our climate from space.
We've synthesized a really diverse stack of sources for you. There are high-level reports on social unrest, policy papers, a major NASA launch briefing.
And some critical public health updates.
And the mission is to connect all these seemingly separate events.
Exactly. To show you the pressure points where the world is, struggling to adapt or even just to communicate. We're exploring 4 distinct areas of stress today: political volatility, physical security, deep science, and the fragile world of digital communication.
So let's start where the heat is highest.
On the streets.
Yeah, we're seeing this significant rise in, I guess you'd call it, visceral anti-government sentiment. And the events in Mexico over the weekend are a prime example.
And the core drivers are familiar, right?
They are. It's deep-seated anger over political corruption and, of course, unchecked drug violence.
The numbers really show this wasn't just an isolated thing.
No, not at all. Rallies erupted across dozens of cities, from Tijuana all the way down to Oaxaca.
And it got violent. The reports say at least 120 people were injured.
Right. And 100 of those were police officers, 20 were protesters.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting the 13 others injured in Guadalajara. It was serious.
What I found so interesting beyond the violence was the cultural language of the movement. This is a Gen Z-driven thing.
Completely. And they're mobilizing under a really specific symbol.
The one-piece pirate flag.
The one-piece pirate flag.
Okay, you have to explain that. Why that symbol?
Well, it's hugely symbolic for a generation fighting what they see as a corrupt system. In the manga, that flag represents, absolute freedom. It's about pursuing an honest life and challenging tyrannical authority to find a better world.
So it's a global shorthand for youthful dissent.
Exactly. Used by a generation that just feels completely failed by the security establishment.
And there was a specific trigger for this, wasn't there?
A devastatingly specific one.
Yeah.
The assassination of Carlos Alberto Manzo Rodriguez. He was the mayor of Uruapan in Michoacan state.
And he was known for actively pushing back against the local drug gangs.
He was. And demonstrators were openly blaming the government for it. They gathered outside the National Palace shouting, "This is how you should have protected Carlos Manzo."
Oh, wow.
You have citizens demanding basic physical security from a state they feel has just outsourced its duties to criminals.
And the political response to this is so crucial, especially since President Claudia Sheinbaum still has these sky-high approval ratings, right?
Yeah.
Over 70%.
Right, so she denounced the violence, but she immediately offered a counter-narrative.
Which was?
She accused right-wing parties of trying to infiltrate the movement, and she claimed that social media bots were being used to artificially inflate the attendance numbers.
So for you, the listener, you have to ask, is that a strategic move to isolate a violent fringe? Or is it a calculated risk to undermine the authenticity of a movement that is expressing genuine, deep-seated anger?
It's a fine line to walk. When leaders deflect responsibility for security failures, it can just erode trust even further, no matter what their approval ratings are.
Okay, so let's move to a different kind of pressure point. A political system under strain from migration. Let's pivot to the UK.
And the pretty hardline policy being proposed by the Home Secretary, Mahmood.
Her argument is very explicit.
It is. She says illegal migration is tearing our country apart. She claims the existing system is broken, that it's being abused.
And her goal is to retain public consent for the whole asylum system.
She's basically suggesting that without these tough measures, public willingness to accept any migration will just collapse.
And the key measure here is, well, it's pretty punitive.
It is. They want to lengthen the typical period of refugee status from 5 years to 20 years.
20 years. With reviews every 2.5 years. That's a huge extension of uncertainty for anyone seeking asylum outside of the, approved channels.
And she's modeling this policy on Denmark.
Right, Denmark, which has a very tough system.
Very. They issue only temporary 2-year permits, and you have to reapply. She did offer a slight concession, saying that those who use safe and legal routes
And contribute to society.
Right, find a job, pay taxes, they might be able to settle sooner, but the main focus is clearly deterrence.
The political framing here is also fascinating. You had Labour MP Clive Lewis immediately warn that bringing up the Danish system echoed the talking points of the far right.
Suggesting the policy radicalizes the political center.
But Mahmood rejected that completely.
She did. She cited her own background as the child of migrants who followed the lawful route. She's positioning the policy not as xenophobic, but as a moral mission to protect the system's integrity.
So you're watching politicians use this deeply personal, deeply moral language to defend what are, structurally very harsh policy proposals.
So we've seen political stability and national identity being tested. Let's look now at a theater of overt conflict,
Ukraine and Russia.
where you see this strange paradox of diplomacy happening right alongside relentless attacks.
And that paradox is just the daily reality of this war.
It is. On the one hand, sources are confirming there's significant movement on resuming prisoner exchanges. Ukraine is hoping to bring home 1,200 prisoners.
And the mechanism for that relies heavily on third parties, right?
It does. These talks are confirmed to be mediated by Turkey and the UAE. They're basically reactivating agreements that were brokered back in Istanbul in 2022.
And the hope, the humanitarian hope, is really specific, that these prisoners might celebrate the New Year and Christmas holidays at home.
But while those delicate discussions are happening, the strategic attacks just continue. Neither side is yielding an inch militarily.
Exactly. Russian overnight drone strikes have seriously damaged energy infrastructure in Ukraine's Odessa region. They hit things like a solar power plant, and it's contributing to rolling blackouts.
Though Ukraine does report successfully shooting down or neutralizing 139 out of 176 of those incoming projectiles.
A pretty high success rate.
But not perfect. And at the same time, Ukraine maintained its own targeting strategy.
Which is aimed at undermining Russia's ability to fund the war.
Exactly. Ukrainian forces struck a major oil refinery in Russia's Samara region and hit a drone warehouse in occupied Donetsk. Targeting oil export revenue is still a top priority to exert that long-term economic pressure.
It's just a constant chilling reminder. Even as they talk about bringing 1,200 people home, the strategic war, the war against the other side's ability to even survive or pay for the fight, it never stops.
Okay, so if we shift from those immediate physical security threats to more existential ones, we move to the crucial, but often invisible, infrastructure of science.
Scientific monitoring and public health.
First, let's look skyward. There's a huge collaborative project, the Sentinel-6B satellite launch.
This is where it gets incredibly complex, but also absolutely vital. Sentinel-6B is set to launch on November 17th.
Aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 from Vandenberg.
And its main mission is basically climate data continuity. It's tracking sea levels across more than 90% of the Earth's ocean surface.
And what's fascinating here is the sheer difficulty of maintaining an unbroken, high-quality, multi-decade climate data set.
So the satellite will fly in tandem. It'll orbit the Earth every 112 minutes, flying just 30 seconds behind its twin, Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich.
30 seconds? Wait, why the 30-second delay? That's not just a cool detail, is it?
No, it's critical. It allows for cross-calibration.
Ah.
They need that overlap period to make sure Sentinel-6B's measurements are perfectly aligned with the existing 5 years of data from its predecessor.
And once it's calibrated, the newer satellite takes over.
Ensuring that continuous stream of data for the next generation of climate models. That continuity is the bedrock, really the infrastructure of climate science.
And this isn't abstract science. This data is directly tied to improving public safety, refining city planning.
Protecting massive coastal infrastructure, like power plants and defense interests.
Plus, NASA is going to use the atmospheric data to refine models for the safe re-entry of the Artemis astronauts.
Which just underscores how global these challenges are. This is a massive U.S.-European mission. You've got NASA, the European Space Agency.
EUMETSAT, which handles weather data for Europe, NOAA, and CNES, the French Space Agency.
It's a perfect example of systems working together, which you have to have when you're facing something as vast as global climate change.
Okay, now switching gears entirely, let's talk about a biological security system under sudden, intense stress.
The confirmation of the deadly Marburg virus outbreak.
In the Jinka area of southern Ethiopia, 9 cases have been detected so far.
And Marburg it's one of the deadliest known pathogens.
It is. It's highly comparable to Ebola. It causes severe bleeding, fever, vomiting, diarrhea. The threat level is just defined by its fatality rate, which can range from 25%
all the way up to 80%.
It's terrifying, and it has a long 21-day incubation period and spreads through body fluids.
And we have to acknowledge that while the Ethiopian authorities have acted swiftly to confirm and contain this,
the chilling fact remains.
There is currently no approved vaccine or antiviral treatment available for Marburg.
None. Survival relies heavily on supportive care symptom treatment, rehydration, but the speed of the public health response is everything.
And we're seeing recent history repeat itself here. There were outbreaks in Tanzania just this past January, 10 deaths. And Rwanda late last year, 15 deaths.
It just highlights the constant, difficult battle that public health authorities face against these extremely rapid and lethal threats.
So we've looked at the critical infrastructure of climate data and public health response. Let's pivot now to the critical infrastructure of, well, digital communication.
And what happens when it completely breaks down?
We're talking about the rapid failure of Sky Sports' Halo TikTok channel.
This is such a textbook case of how legacy media can misinterpret and, frankly, infantilize a sophisticated audience.
The goal was admirable, right?
Absolutely. Sky Sports launched Halo with the stated aim of building a welcoming community for new, young female fans, whether casual or committed.
Admirable goal, immediate disaster. The channel was axed after just 3 days.
After accusations of blatant sexism,
So why the immediate backlash? What did they post?
the content was just so deeply condescending. Let's take the two worst examples. First, they posted content about the 2008 F1 Crashgate scandal, a very technical, very dramatic moment in sport.
And they titled it, Explaining 2008 Crashgate in Girl Terms.
In girl terms.
You're kidding. For anyone who doesn't follow Formula One, Crashgate was a serious, deliberate act of fraud. A team ordered a driver to crash his car to help his teammate win the race.
It's a huge moment of sporting corruption.
And to reduce that to girl terms, with pink glowing text and nail polish emojis, is just a fundamental misunderstanding of your audience's intelligence.
A complete misunderstanding. And then you have captions on, like a Manchester City goal clip that says, how the matcha plus hot girl walk combo hits.
Oh, wow.
They just leaned into the most reductive, stereotypical, aesthetic parts of the platform without understanding that the target audience, young female sports fans, they don't need the sport translated for them. They just need access and respect.
And viewers called it out immediately. Unbelievably sexist, condescending. They argued it actually undermined the hard-won progress in serious women's sports coverage.
This wasn't just a social media mistake. It was a total failure to translate their brand values into the native culture of the platform.
The failure was absolute. Sky was forced to issue a rapid statement.
Basically saying, we didn't get it right. As a result, we're stopping all activity on this account.
They learned a painful lesson. You can't patronize your way into a community that already speaks its own language.
So if we pull back now, this deep dive has really covered a whole spectrum of global stress points.
From the visceral demands for physical security in Mexico
To the incredible precision required for climate data collection by Sentinel-6B.
and the complete communication failure of a major media brand.
And the common thread here is how quickly these critical systems, whether they're political, scientific, or digital, can be exposed as fragile.
We saw President Sheinbaum use political language to deflect criticism,
Home Secretary Mahmood use moral language to defend policy.
and a major media company fail spectacularly by just using the wrong language entirely.
The symbols we encountered today, the one-piece pirate flag, the 20-year temporary migration status, that satellite flying 30 seconds behind its twin, and the pink nail polish emojis, they all carry huge weight.
So we leave you with this thought. When we consume these updates, what responsibility do we have to look past the surface symbols, past the inflammatory captions or the political deflections, to understand the real policy stakes and the deep-seated social grievances they represent?
And how much deeper do we need to look to make sure the silent, critical infrastructure like those Sentinel satellites remains unbroken? We really encourage you to explore the long-term data continuity challenges that are facing climate science.